All right, we're back here on Sportsline, taking your phone calls on the Tennessee coaching search from the Schiano mess over the weekend to where they go now. And I say now because the update within the hour is Mike Gundy tweeting out that he is staying and he is a Cowboy for life at Oklahoma State. So Tennessee now moves on from him. We'll see who is next. Back to the phones we go. Say hello to James. James, thanks for waiting.
Okay. First of all, what they need to do is they need to replace the athletic director and put Phil Fulmer in there. Then they need to get a hold of Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and get a hold of Mr. John Chavis, who was the defensive coordinator under Mr. Fulmer while they were so successful at Tennessee, and get him back to Tennessee as the head coach. Then they need to call Southern California and get T. Martin back to be the offensive coordinator in the same position he is in. Then you would have three people that were there at Tennessee when they were very successful, and they could get along and get Tennessee back to where they need to be.
You think three people in completely different roles than they were when they were successful the last time would get Tennessee back to where they need to be?
Well, what I'm trying to say is Mr. Fulmer and Mr. Martin. I mean, Mr. Martin played for Phil Fulmer.
Sure.
Okay. So right now there is no consistency. It's you got to get three people who could get along, and Mr. Fulmer and Mr. Chavis and Mr. Martin would have a better chance of going in and soaring it up in a timely manner than you would get three totally people who had never been associated together at all.
Well,
now, I'm not saying it would work, but I'm saying it's a whole lot better idea than what they got right now.
Well, I appreciate the call, James. There are a lot of people out there who would love to see Tennessee go back to those roots in some way, shape, or form. There's a ton of people who would love to see Phil Fulmer take over for John Curry right now. I get all of that. I don't think John Chavis is a head coach. I think there's a lot of people watching out there in college football circles that don't think so either. He just hasn't really been up for jobs, and there's a reason for that. T. Martin, I love him. I think he's great. He's not ready to be the head coach either. Phil Fulmer has never been an athletic director. I think one thing Tennessee has to be careful. I agree with the point that you have to get people who've worked together and create some stability. That's what Tennessee's lacked. The thing, though, is you got to be careful of making it so much about having a Vol or having people with ties to Tennessee that you then put them in roles that they're either not prepared for or aren't comfortable with, and put them with people who are in other roles. And that's where you get in trouble when you talk about a T. Martin coming back as the head coach or trying to bring a John Chavis back in a certain spot. The guy I thought was absolutely where they should have made the next call was David Cutcliffe at Duke. And it sounds like they did, and he just said, look, at this point in my career, I love it at Duke. We've done some good things here. I like the players I have. I want to stay here, and I want to retire at Duke. Not necessarily a knock on Tennessee, but just he's comfortable where he is. He's happy where he is. But he, to me, was the guy that made the most sense to say, all right, if we're going to try and get back to those roots, we need somebody to stabilize this. Who can we go to? David Cutcliffe is a guy who's actually been a head coach and has actually done good things in that role. Now, we might get down to T. Martin, and that will excite some fans on Rocky Top for sure. But, I mean, if you're talking about basically raising tiki torches and pitchforks to make sure Greg Schiano wasn't the head coach, and we talked about this last night, there's a whole lot to dive into there. But to make sure he's not the head coach, Greg Schiano is way more accomplished than T. Martin and some of these guys that are down this list in terms of being the next Tennessee coach. He's a more accomplished guy than Butch Jones was 5 years ago, and Derek Dooley before that, and probably more accomplished than Lane Kiffin before that. And frankly, he was more accomplished than Philip Fulmer when Philip Fulmer took over the job. So if you're going to say that guy can't do it, and then your next choice is Mike Gundy, who clearly has a great track record and would have been a home run hire, and a total coup if they could have figured out how to pull it off. And you end up with T. Martin, I mean, that's an enormous fall in terms of the skill set and the coaching background that you have there. It could be great, could be awesome, but you just don't know at this point. And that, unfortunately, is where this Tennessee search has gotten right now. You just don't know what you're going to end up with. We got to take our final break. We'll be back after this.